Hi. Thank you for attending today's reading. Let's begin. I changed my life when I was 18 and still in high school. I went to the doctors for a checkup. I stepped on the scale and saw the number 395. I was shocked. I knew I weighed a lot, but I didn't know I was at that number. The doctor told me I had to make a change in my life or I would not live the long life I wanted to live. I suffered a thyroid condition in the 2nd grade which made me put on weight without even eating that much. I was obese in elementary school. Then when I got into high school, the day I left the doctor's office I went to the store with my mom to buy food to start my diet. I went on the Atkins diet, eating lean meats, vegetables, fruits and whole grains. I started walking for my exercise but grew to love fitness. I started weight training, aerobics, yoga, and fell in love with jogging whether it was outside or on the treadmill. In 8 months I dropped 100 pounds. When I graduated high school a lot of people were amazed. When I turned 21 I had dropped 270 pounds and had excess skin on my body. I got surgery for my skin, which was painful but worth it for a lot of reasons. I still love exercise. Even when I was pregnant I enjoyed working out. Achieving this goal in life has made me realize I can achieve my dream career I'm working for currently. I did this achievement because of my health. I needed to be in better health because my family history on both sides. There is heart attacks, diabetes, cancer, kidney disease and more. I'm glad I made this goal in my life. For my health, I hope to live a long life and be there for my son and get the career in working for at the moment. End of story. Next story. RF. I'm a doctor and something is killing my patients. I graduated from medical school with a large amount of student loan debt. The government was offering a loan forgiveness program for doctors who would practice in certain underserved areas. I had been void of love my whole life and I finally found someone who cared about me and we both had a personal connection towards each other. She graduated nursing school about the same time I finished medical school. My wife and I agreed to work on an Indian reservation in North Dakota in exchange for loan forgiveness. We packed up our stuff and headed to the Northwest. I was able to establish a practice out of my home property in an adjacent structure in what was once an in-law suite. 4 years had gone by and I had established a rapport with the community. My wife would assist me as a nurse and I would make house calls on my own. It really felt like I was practicing in a foregone era, being the only doctor in the community and making occasional house calls. My wife gave birth to 2 sons and we were kept busy all the time. Everything was going well. I mostly dealt with your run-of-the-mill coughs, heart issues, stomach ailments, but that all seemed to change rather gradually. My patient load was around 300 people. I noticed over time that the mortality rate started to increase compared to when I first arrived 4 years earlier. It seemed like there was 1 death a month as compared to a total of 2 deaths a year when I first came onto the reservation. The people who were dying were from the ages of 1 to 80 years old. The younger ones baffled me and I even started implementing genetic testing to ensure I wasn't missing any type of genetic anomalies. That had been undetected. Even odder, I had seen the patients who died just days prior to when they had died and they were relatively healthy. Then, tragedy really struck when my youngest son died. When he was just shy of being 2 years old, my wife and I went into his room one morning and he was completely blue. I tried to revive him but I knew he was too far gone. I then had everything tested in the house and in the community to include the well water, the air, the soil, everything. And all the samples came back normal. I was perplexed. I was trying to figure out why all of these relatively healthy people were dying. I was looking for any type of connections. Then the stress got to me and I got sick. I felt weak and tired all of the time. I had to make changes in my life. I cut out just about every unhealthy food item. I even stopped drinking coffee. I only ate protein bars and bottled water. Within a month, I felt healthier than I ever did. However, the deaths had increased to about 1 every 3 weeks and the tribal leaders wanted answers. I could tell that my wife was at the end of her rope. This once vibrant, energetic woman was just a shell of herself. I thought it would be for the best if she stopped assisting me as a nurse. But she said it was the only thing that was keeping her sane. I tried to remove myself on the weekends and I would only see patients when it was an absolute emergency on the weekends. I would peruse through the internet and see what was going on in the world and back east, where we were from. Back home, the same old things were going on with the exception of the still unsolved murders that had occurred less than 10 years ago. The murders happened so fast back east that it paralyzed the whole community. Nobody felt safe leaving their house. Then the killings stopped as quickly as they started. I remember my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, would lock herself in her dorm room and she would only go out to go to class with a group of her friends. Well, I was glad the murders had stopped and the local authorities had suspected that it was a drifter who had died in the state mental hospital. Just when things couldn't get any worse, our 7-year-old son started to get sick. I felt completely helpless. My son Zhu got weaker and weaker. Then as a last resort, I switched his diet to bottled water and energy bars and slowly he started to get better. It was a big relief for my wife and I that our son actually got better and not worse. Patients continued to come to our house to be seen. I sometimes felt that the kids and adults would just come to my office because of the free food and drinks we provided. Then it happened again. A 5-year-old kid suddenly got sick and died. I thought to myself, besides having a learning delay, the kid was healthy. I jotted down as much as possible about each one of my patients who died and I brainstormed with my wife. Then she uttered something that triggered something in my brain. She said, when I did my nursing rotation at the state hospital. I'm not sure why, but then I started to draw parallels in my head to each one of my patients who had come to visit me. I recalled that each one of my patients received food and drink from my wife and both my son and I got better after we stopped eating and drinking. I searched the house for poison or any other suspicious substance, but I couldn't find anything. I couldn't accuse my wife without any evidence, but I was fairly certain it was her. I stopped allowing my wife to give food and drinks to the patients. The month went by and no one had died. I was now convinced that she was the murderer. How could have I been so naive? Why would she do it? Did she murder our son? I then wondered about the unsolved murders back east, where we were from. Everyone suspected it was a man, but was it really her? Did she kill the suspected murderer in the state hospital to keep his from talking? I was trying to recall what I missed when we were dating. What clues did I miss? My career is now over. My name is tarnished forever. My son was murdered by his own mother. I recalled that my wife had moved around a lot as a kid. She really didn't have any long-term friends or connections. Her parents were a little neurotic, but I wouldn't say dangerous. Her parents paid for our wedding and other expenses. My wife told me she had a younger sister who drowned when my wife was a teenager. Did she leave a path of destruction wherever she went? Did her parents know? There could have been up to 40 people she killed on this reservation alone. Plus the countless others she probably killed in the past. Instead of calling the police, I decided to put our son in boarding school first. That way he would be far away from my wife as possible. I knew if I called the police, they would take away my medical license. The authorities would say if I didn't know, then I should have known. I never really told her why I wanted to put our son in boarding school. I pretty much just said, because it's the best thing for our son. I was weak and still in love with her. I never felt like anybody had loved me. I knew she was just a sick person. I would have stopped her if I would have picked up on the clues. So, I sat her down and just looked at her. I said, "Why?" Quote. She responded, "Why what?" Quote. I said, "Those people. Our son, why? Why did you do it?" Quote. She put her head down for a minute and thought about it. Then she said, "Why do geese fly south every winter? Why do bees protect their queen? They don't know why they do the things they do, but they still do it." Quote. I then said, "Why our son? How could you? Why would you?" Quote. She then started to cry and said, "Why do mother gerbils eat their baby gerbils? Why do mother deers leave their offspring to die if they don't have the correct fur pattern? I don't know and they don't know. They just do it and I just do it." I then asked, "How many have there been? 50? 75? 100? Quote. She gave me a look like keep on going. I then said, "How are your parents still alive?" She was still crying and replied, "How are you still alive?" Quote. I then realized that her parents know about her and what she had been doing for all of these years. Then, I thought they did the same thing I'm doing. They didn't want to ruin their lives and their careers. So they just kept moving away and stopped eating around her. I then said, "Give me the poison." She went inside our now deceased son's room and winded the jack in the box, and then I saw the white substance appear. I said, "What is it?" Quote. She said, "Cyanide." Quote. I said, "Where did you get it?" Quote. She said, she had it for years. Then, I said, "Here is how we are going to deal with this situation. You never come anywhere near any of my patients. You are never going to leave the house. Every potential sharp object will be accounted for. You will only see our son when I'm watching you closely. All of the cleaning chemicals will be locked in the basement. And if you break any of these rules, then I'll feed you the cyanide." She agreed. I then said, "How were you able to get away with this for so long?" And she said, "You did, and no one ever expects the butterfly." When my patients came to see me, she would wave from the window, just to let everyone know she was still alive. I may have married the most prolific serial killer of all time, but nobody will ever know it was her. Her parents will never tell, and they will die from old age in a matter of years. There will never be exhumed bodies or a knock on the door from police. And I will always be the selfless doctor who gave up on fame and fortune to work on an Indian reservation. The end. End of story. That is all for today. If you want to support my automated channel, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. See you tomorrow.